at 7 p.m. We will open the Pledge of Allegiance. Everyone who is able, please stand. We will now have our land acknowledgement read by Director Knowles. I'm sorry, by Director Allen.
On behalf of this board and the Cherry Creek School District, I would like to acknowledge that this meeting is being held on the ancestral and unceded lands of the Cheyenne, Arapaho, Ute, and Oceti-Sakowee people who stewarded it for generations. The Oceti-Sakowee includes 7 bands, so I would also like to recognize that over 40 additional tribal nations likely use this area for trade, ceremonies, and social gatherings.
Thank you. Before we approve our agenda, I would like to note that we have multiple absences due to illness or family emergencies. So remember to take care of yourself and take care of one another. So Directors Bates and Director Knowles are excused for this evening. I'd like to call for a motion to approve April 14th Board meeting agenda. You call for the. Are you going to call to amend?
Point of order. Didn't you want to amend the agenda?
Yes, I thought that. Isn't that what? Are you going to read that?
I thought Director Egan was. And this is what we just read the first part.
Okay.
Okay, sorry. I move that we amend the agenda to remove Resolution 25.4.11, approval of lease agreement between MetroPoint Venture LLC and Cherry Creek School District Number 5, and Resolution 25.4.18, approval of purchase Learning by Design Consulting LLC from the consent agenda. Second.
Roll call, please.
Discussion?
I think Ms. Egan might want some time for discussion if we can entertain that.
Okay.
I'd like to request these 2 items be removed from the consent agenda, Resolutions 25.4.11 and 25.4.18, for the following reasons. To remove Resolution 25.4.11 titled Approval of Lease Agreement between MetroPoint Venture and Cherry Creek School District. The board and superintendent have not had an opportunity to discuss this as a group and want to be sure all options have been considered. And also move to remove Resolution 25.4.18 titled Approval of Purchase Learning by Design Consulting LLC from the consent agenda and postpone to a future meeting, as the contract referenced in the resolution was not attached and the board needs to review before taking action. Thank you.
Is there any more discussion? Roll call, please.
Director Allen?
Aye.
Egan?
Aye.
Garland?
Aye. Motion carries. I'd like to call for a motion to approve the minutes as listed on the April 14th.
Point of order, can you call for a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Sure.
I'd like to call for a motion to approve the agenda, to approve the amended agenda as read.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Directors Allen?
Aye.
Egan? Garland?
Aye. Motion carries. point of order, so approval of minutes? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's okay, we don't do this very often, so we all
Right.
need practice.
I'd like to call for a motion to approve the minutes as listed on the April 14th, 2025 agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
Roll call, please.
Director Allen,
Aye.
Egan,
Aye.
Garland,
Aye. Motion carries. At this time, we will have comments from our board of directors, starting with Director Allen.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you to Principal Garcia and the West community for hosting this event, and as always, my thanks to our security and setup teams. I use my time this evening to talk about something new and exciting, the School Finance Act. It's a joke. House Bill 1320 passed its first hurdle at the Capitol. It's not a perfect solution, but it does help prevent deeper cuts and provides much needed stability in what continues to be a very difficult budget year. That outcome was only possible because of the strong advocacy from across our district and our state. To the teachers who rallied at the Capitol over spring break and who continue to speak with legislators, your advocacy is powerful and your voice matters. Lawmakers heard you, and we did also. Thank you to our school leaders and administrators for helping educate our community about the realities of school finance and budget cuts, and for asking for their support in standing up for our students, teachers, and schools. You helped share a clear, unified message from the superintendent and this board, and that made a significant difference. And thank you to our families, educators, and community members. Your thousands of emails and calls showed what it means to stand up for public education. Despite these challenges, our focus remains steady. Every child is welcome in our schools. Our commitment to grade-level literacy for every student by 2030 reflects our belief that all children, regardless of ability, race, ethnicity, sex, gender, or background, deserves equal access to a strong public education. As a district dedicated to excellence, we know literacy is not a privilege or a luxury, it's a necessity. It gives every child the opportunity to discover their pathway of purpose, and it is essential to the strength and future of our democracy. Thank you for continuing to support our students, our schools, and our shared mission.
Thank you, Director Allen. Director Egan?
Thank you. Good evening. It's great to be here at West Middle School. We appreciate Principal Garcia and our technology setup and safety and security teams for everything they do in these meetings. It was an honor to celebrate our district staff who make a difference in the lives of students with special needs at the 2025 Golden Heart Awards dinner on Friday with my colleagues. It was also very inspirational serving as Colorado's delegate at the 2025 National School Board Association Conference. There were many words of wisdom, but especially the emphasis on collective leadership with the sentiment, now more than ever, we must stand together to protect and fulfill the promise of public education. One of the primary reasons I ran for the seat in 2019 and again in 2023 is the mental health and physical safety of our students, staff, and community. Health is one of the 3 pillars of the district strategic plan, and tonight you'll hear a presentation from the district student health team about the ways they are supporting these initiatives in our buildings. We know a student's physical, emotional, and social needs are at the foundation of how well they are able to learn and engage. I am proud to have served on this board in 2020, and I thank you, our voters, for having passed the bond measure which led to the first of its kind mental health facility, Traverse Academy. We are also operating free telehealth, mental health for all students, as well as very high levels of mental health staffing in our schools under the direction of Superintendent Smith. On tonight's consent agenda, you'll see the approval of Proclamation 25.14, School Library Month, April 2025. Literacy is another of our district's 3 pillars, and it's always important to remember our school librarians and libraries and the work they do to make sure students have a love of reading with literacy at its very core. The March Voices of Color meeting at Cherry Creek High School was also a wonderful celebration of literacy with a report from the district's literacy team and student discussions. And congratulations to the Cherry Creek High School Library for achieving one of CDE's highly effective schools through libraries credentials for creating a living, breathing space at the heart of the school. The Cherry Creek Schools Foundation held its annual Elevate Gala on March 27th, raising more than $555,000 to invest in the students and staff of Cherry Creek Schools. Thanks to the support of our community and community champions, the foundation can continue supporting our schools with educator initiative grants, as well as support for mental health programs, mobile markets, and more. The foundation is currently interviewing candidates for the executive director position through virtual and in-person meetings. The final round of interviews will be held at the end of April, and we look forward to sharing the new leader of the foundation in early May. Don't forget to save the date for the 2025 golf tournament on Monday, June 2nd. It's an honor to welcome the National Women's Soccer League practice facility and fields to the Cherry Creek School District with my colleagues. Soccer has been a big part of my family's life. My children all played with Colorado Storm throughout their K-12 Cherry Creek educations, and my two oldest now play recreational soccer. For me, soccer came to Bozeman Public Schools and the larger community in the late 1970s. My dad was my first coach, and we were the Cosmos, taking inspiration from the New York Cosmos and soccer great Pele. I'd also like to mention we're nearing the end of the 2025 legislative session, as Director Allen had mentioned, and as such, I wanted to provide a few comments about K-12 education funding. Funding remains largely the same as was proposed in HB 1448 last year, with the biggest change around a 7-year phase-in, not 6. Cherry Creek had a very visible presence at the Capitol on behalf of our district and others, and I am grateful for staff and students for their advocacy. After next year, there is a plan to the rest of the formula, but unfortunately, also acknowledgement that Colorado does not have this necessary money. This, combined with a possible recession and/or federal funding cuts, means we should be prepared for difficult years ahead and to advocate for all students and funding. I hope you have a wonderful spring. This concludes my comments.
Thank you, Director Egan. As mentioned earlier, my colleagues and I had the opportunity for a new with the National Women's Soccer League. This new venture for girls in sports, both on and off the field, are crucial for promoting equity, confidence, leadership, and lifelong wellness. Over the years, parity in sports has made significant strides thanks to Title IX and tireless efforts of advocates for pushing equal access and recognition. Last weekend's Final Four had record eyeballs watching young women from across the country play basketball. Today's girls not only compete at the highest levels, but they're also stepping into roles as coaches, officials, administrators, and sports media professionals. These opportunities help break down stereotypes, build resilience, and prepare young women for success in all areas of life. While there's still work to be done, the progress made reflects a growing recognition that sports are for everyone and that inclusion benefits individuals and communities alike. I recently had the pleasure of arranging a tour of the Cherry Creek Innovation Campus for a group of engaged voters from Heather Gardens, who also hosted information sessions for our Mill and Bond initiative. The Innovation Campus is a state-of-the-art facility where students gain hands-on experiences in trades and earn industry certifications. The campus provided an inspiring glimpse into the future of education and workforce readiness. Our Heather Gardens constituents were able to see firsthand how their support directly impacts the opportunities available to students, from advanced manufacturing labs to culinary arts and health science classrooms. It was a meaningful opportunity to showcase the return of their investment and the tangible benefits our students receive thanks to their commitment to education. Senior citizen voters are an essential group for school districts to engage with because they typically have high voter turnout rates and often play a key role in the outcome of local elections, including those involving school funding measures and elected officials, and initiatives like meal levies and bond initiatives. Even if they no longer have children in the school system, many seniors about the quality of school education, the strength of their community, and the value of their property, which is closely tied to the reputation and success of neighborhood schools. Building strong relationships with senior voters helps school districts foster trust, demonstrate accountability, and show how educational investments benefit the entire community, not just students. That concludes my report. Thank you. Superintendent Smith is not here. Will you be doing comments on his behalf?
I have brief comments. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dr. Jennifer Perry. I'm the Deputy Superintendent. I will be reading a comment, but I feel like I should add to your comments about soccer. I too, my dad sponsored our team. We were the Little Bits. We were not the Cosmos because my dad was part of an oil field company. And so I don't know if you can explain to 6-year-olds what a bit is, but we were the Little Bits. I have a few words from Superintendent Smith. He would just say, he wanted me to share that first we would like to thank the West team for hosting us tonight, and we'd also like to congratulate hot off the presses Principal Monica Garcia, who has been named now a new Director of Human Resources that was sent to the community just this afternoon, and so congratulations to Monica. But Chris shares, I want to sincerely apologize for not being here in person tonight. Like many of us at my age, there are times our aging parents need us to be with them. This is one of those instances. I always preach family first, and tonight I needed to take my own advice. I appreciate everyone's understanding. So I'm sure we all send our thoughts towards Superintendent Smith. But with that, if we are ready for the presentation, I will introduce our Chief of Student Health, Ms. Michelle Weinrob, as she brings her team up to share all that we are doing with her departments.
Good evening, Board of Directors, minimized. Thank you so much for allowing me and our team to speak with you tonight about their work. We always hear that the students are the best part of our time here together, and today was no different. Our high school student who talked about being vulnerable and being present really spoke to me, and I think it probably spoke to this team as well, because this is the work we do, is to be present for students and vulnerable with them and with each other, so that we can really see them and hear what they need. And so we're just grateful for our time with you today. You know, and anyone who's here who doesn't know this is obviously brand new to our meetings, but we are rooted in these 5 core values in as every team does. I also wanted to thank Director Egan for shouting out our work earlier in her comments. That was really important and meaningful to this group. And to Dr. Perry and others who pointed out that health and well-being is one of the 3 pillars of our strategic plan. That is pretty neat for us. We don't take that lightly, and we have really dug into that work, and I'm super proud that our team is not only represented in the health and well-being work, but also on the disproportionality work as well, because we do want to make sure that all of our students are seen across the board, and the through lines that we have seen from literacy to health and well-being and disproportionality are really marked and important to this group. So before I hand it over to them to speak to you tonight, I do want to just acknowledge who's here with me, and they're going to come up one at a time to speak about their work. Jennifer Ellerbrook, our Director of Health Services. Wave if you can behind me, guys, because the chair is taller than me. Nicole Marr, Assistant Director of Health Services, working with our student and family resources and engagement. Andrew Russell, our fairly new, but not so new, Director of Mental Health. Jay McQueen, our Assistant Director of Mental Health. Linda Keeley, who could not be here tonight, is our Assistant Director of Medicaid Grant, and Christy Zhang, my Executive Assistant and the person who holds us all together every day, all day. Thank you for being here, and thank you for what you do every day. Okay, and with that, I'm going to turn this over to my team.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for letting us be able to have the opportunity to speak to you about our work and everything we do here for students. Again, as Michelle mentioned, I'm Jen Ellebrook, the Director of Health Services, and I just want to take you through a couple very brief slides of the work that we do and share from there. So one of the biggest things with our health services department is we do support all of our health clinics with our nurses, health liaisons, and students throughout each school community. We do, and I'm so proud and always thankful to everyone in this room as well as our board that we are able to have a nurse in each of our K-12 buildings to support student success. When we started looking at whole well-being and the importance of that pillar, one of the biggest things that came to light, as we consistently see, is that it's not just about one intervention one day. Our students have to be able to walk through those doors every day with whatever happened before and whatever's going to happen after each school day. And so wrapping around and how we envelop them to be able to have that success is really important to us. When we looked at that this year, we recognized that there really are two very identifiable branches within our health services department. And so we did branch in the sense that now my assistant director actually completely oversees our student family resource section, and she'll talk more about that with you after me. So we have our clinical operations side as well as our student family resource side. And I will say, imagine if you will, this is one big slide. It makes a circle, I promise. So when we talk about how do we serve our student, we want to always remember that every number and every data point equals an intervention outcome and identifies a lived story. We don't want to forget that that number does not have a face to that name. So when we go all the way from whether they moved here on purpose for our schools or whether they grew up here and stayed, from arrival to welcome, our growth mindset to include them, equity to have them all attend and have connectivity, to be able to have student-centric whole well-being with finding their pathway of purpose for engagement and meaningful relationships is all at our core, to be able to come full circle where they then oftentimes choose to stay and create and have their own families to raise, because our Cherry Creek School District does encourage our students to succeed however that looks like in their life for their pathway of purpose, and how we connect that with every department across our entire system is what values and matters to us, to be able to make sure that from start to finish our students are set up for success and what that means for them. We definitely partner across both internally and externally with resources and collaborations. Our community and connectedness is really important when we're talking about helping that whole child really access from the time their little eyes wake up to the time they go to bed at night and feeling safe everywhere in between. When we look at kind of a little historical viewpoint, we definitely spent a lot of this year updating our protocols and processes to assure that it was really aligned. One of the most frustrating things that we hear is that if it happens at one school but doesn't happen at another, and that can really add a barrier to misunderstandings and lack of success. And so really aligning how we support students, what that looks like in our processes. This was our first year with our concussion protocol that really supported all students, not just those on athletic teams in our high schools. Over a third of our nurses became school nurses, which is one of the largest amounts in a district in our state. And we also talked about how we support not just our interventions in the moment for crisis response when it comes to physical health and safety and 911 calls and interventions, but also how do we make sure that those are limited interactions and issues that occur for our students during the school day so that they have preventative and intervention care. So in wrapping that with this focus this school year, we're looking forward to next school year with every student every day. Pre-K through 21, age 21 is what we educate, and our partnerships with Whole Child, Whole Wellbeing. What is our why? What are we solving for? What are we really looking at? And it's always student-centric. And how do we best meet their needs within the process and protocols, but also what is it they're solving for? And are we listening to their voice? And with that, that's why we have our entirely extra branch now, officially, of Student Family Resource, and I will give that over to our Assistant Director, Nicole Marr.
Hi everybody, I'm Nicole. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. This is my first time. So we now have the Student and Family Resource Team, and thanks for Jen for being here to support me. And so we really combined outreach, wellness, and location with our McKinney-Vento team to help serve all students. And for those of you that might be a little bit hungry right now because you might have missed dinner, and so you're having a hard time paying attention, like I imagine how a student feels coming to school, trying to access their education. And we're really here. I mean, the students that spoke, they inspired me so much tonight, just realizing how much we go through the course of our K-12 education. And so we just want to be here to make that a little bit easier. So I wanted to give a shout out to a few of our outreach partners and kind of give you some numbers of what we've served so far. So in the 2024 school year, we served 8,002 people in the Stride clinics. And so we have 3 clinics, and one of them is split between behavioral health and physical health. For our immunization clinics, that includes Arapahoe County Public Health and the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. We've given over 700 vaccinations or immunizations. Chopper Toppers, they help with all of our dental stuff, and they've been into 10 different CCSD schools this year. Another new thing that we've piloted this year is having a company called Servicios de la Raza come into our schools, and they help families fill out Medicaid applications. And out of all the Medicaid applications they've completed with our families, we've had an 85% success rate in getting families access to health education or healthcare access. And then with helping to meet the literacy goal in 2030, we found another new great program called I Love Care. And they actually just started up this spring, and we kind of piloted them this year. But they've served over 400 students, and they bring 2 optometrists and 3 support staff into the schools. And they actually give out, and they have students try on glasses. And it's something that if you don't have insurance, that it's completely free, and the students can get up to 3 pairs of glasses, even if they're broken or they get stepped on or just something like that. Another cool thing that we have been offering is, this is thank you to our Cherry Creek Schools Foundation. I don't know if you've seen this. This is a partnership that we have through the Secor mobile market. And on the other side, the sides come up too as well, and there's refrigeration in there, and families come and they kind of shop through the entire truck. And I will tell you, in about an hour, that whole truck is sold out. So, I mean, it has just been so wonderful, and we try to do that about 6 times a year. And then another great thing that we've kind of gotten more ideas about is thank you to the board for supporting us with our donation drives. I have a few little fun student stories that kind of have, I guess because of the buzz of all of it, we've had a Girl Scout troop donate over 200 boxes of cookies to our pantries. We've had a few kids, in lieu of birthday gifts, they've given out snacks to our families. And then King Soopers has recently partnered with us. They had their little disposable bags, and for every bag they sold, they gave us back $1, and we ended up earning over $3,000 that went back into our resource pantries. And the cool thing that we're doing with that was we're taking the money from that, and we gave it to the CCIC students to say, hey, help us make some weekend bags for some of our families. And so they came up with recipes and all that stuff, so that way they're going to make these bags of food for us so we can give it back to our parents. So that's pretty fun too. So thank you so much to Secor as well. And then this one, I'm more on the newer side too, but I know our McKinney-Vento team has grown throughout the years. So back in 2020, we started with a staff of 1, and now we're with about a staff of 4, plus we have 2 admissions staff that help us out. And through that, we've been able to identify a lot more students. So there was 361 in 2020, and now we're up to 1,205. So I imagine with how the economy is going and everything, we would see more in the future, but I really just want to be here to help support that. So our resource team is here for all of that. And for our future planning, I just so much appreciate any support that you want to, any ideas that you have, I'm welcome. If you ever want us to come to like a PTCO meeting, or if you ever want to hear a presentation from our team, we're just more than happy to help. So thank you so much. And now I will turn it over to Andrew.
Good evening. I am Dr. Andrew Russell, and I am a school psychologist by training and a licensed psychologist, and for the past 2 months I'm the Director of Mental Health Services for Cherry Creek School District, and I'm incredibly proud and humbled by this role too. I'm new to this role. I'm not new to Cherry Creek. I moved out in 2010 and I apologize too, I thought a brief introduction might be appropriate. Moved out in 2010, and I've worked in 4 different feeders at all of the levels of schools, and most recently as the mental health coordinator for the Eagle Crest feeder area. And again, I'm very proud to be in this role. It's always nice to know a little bit about the person in front of you, and I also would like to highlight there's so many reasons I'm excited for this work and motivated to be great and to have a great team in this role, but also my 2 daughters who are 5 and 3, the eldest of which is going to be in the schools, in Cherry Creek schools as well next year. I want to be great for them as well. So I'm very excited for a lot of different reasons. I'm going to try to be brief, and for folks who know me, that may not be my strong suit, but I'm going to do it this time. I've got this. There's 3 kind of big buckets when we think about the mental health department that we tend to operate in, and the first is really around prevention services. Then we also think about really the direct mental health intervention services that we provide to students, which often happens within the world of special education and IEPs. And then we also do a lot in the realm of safety and crisis prevention work. There's a lot of different sort of hats that folks on the mental health team wear, and we have about 200 different folks that participate on our mental health team providing these services. If we just think about the services that are provided to students on IEPs alone, students that have mental health needs related to education, we're looking at just under 4,000 students, right, that mental health providers are regularly working with. And that's sort of not considering the crisis work and all the prevention work that's done as well. So it's critical we're getting the right people in the right places. And I just wanted to take a moment to reinforce that the work that we do there in terms of placing folks, selecting folks, is not capricious, it's very intentional. And there's a pretty significant model that involves a lot of different variables, about a dozen different variables to consider when we prioritize how we place students in schools to determine needs. This is elevating and including things related to safety concerns, broad student enrollment, mental health minutes, multilingual needs, discipline, percentages in schools, many things to make sure that the right people get to the right place. So we're invested in that and making sure that we hold on to the right people as well. This work doesn't happen without folks that are really strong in their craft. So outside of the operations piece, we talked a little bit about safety as well. Keeping kids safe is going to come first for us. One of the things that helps inform our practice is going to be data, of course. We're excited by a new platform that's going to help us be a little bit more responsive to some of the data. Some of the metrics that we make use of pretty regularly are evaluations that we conduct in the moments with students. We call them threat assessments or TAPES, and suicide risk reviews for students who might be experiencing some sort of mental health crisis. So we track these numbers over the years, and unfortunately, because the Salesforce platform is newer to us, we're not looking at time series, we're looking at bar graphs. But generally what we see isn't too much outside of the window of the norm. We do see a slight increase in some risks in the middle school level for suicide risk reviews for the most recent semester. Now, one other aspect to safety that was included in 2023, inclusion of student support plans and safety plans. And these are really intended to meet the needs, I think, for folks to have a level of transparency around safety, to make sure that we have consistent language and consistent planning for students no matter where they're at in our district. This arose from some safety concerns related to the shooting at East High School and increased core requests that we saw, and also the need again for that transparency. So since that was developed, we've created over 2,000 safety plans to help keep kids safe in schools as well. And one last aspect related to the practice that we have, and I'm particularly proud of this, having watched the department grow and evolve over time. The last 5 or 6 years, I have really been impressed to see the level of partnership that we have, really intentional strategic partnerships with community agencies, with state agencies, with a whole variety of private practices as well, to really meet the needs that might sort of exceed what we would do in a school setting. There's just a few examples of these, from individualized supports and group therapy supports, different educational programming supports. One that I would highlight in particular, I heard Nicole speak to the Cherry Creek Schools Foundation. I think we're really privileged with that partnership, and it helps us to really connect students and reduce barriers that might prevent families and students from getting access to very particular needs that might be related to trauma needs or financial barriers, and they help to overcome those. Servicios de la Raza is one such group that provides really great art therapy in several of our middle schools and high schools, so we're very privileged to have that partnership. I won't take up any more time, but I'm going to pass the microphone to the Assistant Director, Jay McQueen.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you tonight. So in my role as the Assistant Director of Mental Health, I focus a great deal on our preventative and universal measures, as well as some of our more targeted interventions. So first, I'd like to talk with you about Hazel Health. We entered a partnership with Hazel Health about 2.5 years ago, and we've excited to say that over 741 students have engaged in services just this academic year. I also think it's helpful to talk about the reasons why students seek support from Hazel Health, which is online teletherapy offered for all students K-12 and available both at home and in school. So our top 3 reasons that students have been engaging in services this past quarter are feeling sad, anxious, depressed, or withdrawn, difficulty expressing oneself, and anxiety. So I just like to stress that we see variation in this over our reporting, and so it's helpful to know and have a pulse on what our kids are struggling with. We also have 2 grants that support elementary schools, and these grants have been particularly helpful for us to think about not only how we integrate social emotional learning, but also how we support trauma-informed approaches with our students. Our first grant was provided to us through the Colorado Department of Education in 2019. We were part of a number of school districts that received this grant to provide SEL specialists or social emotional learning specialists in 5 elementary schools that you see listed: Highline, The Hollies, Independence, Polton, and Village East. The grant has come to a conclusion, but I'm very, very proud to be a part of a district that recognizes how important this is, and it will be continuing next year. I'd also like to talk about the Kaiser Thriving Schools RISE grant, which stands for Resilience in School Environments. So we partner with Resilient Futures, which is a local nonprofit that works on trauma-informed care, focusing a great deal on staff ability to respond to students and their needs. So we've had this grant since 2017. There have been 3 grant cycles, and we've been selected in the last year as an influencer district. So there are, I think, at least 10 districts involved in the project, but we are one of 3 influencer districts serving and coaching those schools. And then finally, I'd like to talk with you about one of my passions in this work. What brought me to education, K through 12 education, was a passion to eliminate disproportionality for students across academics as well as in behavior and exclusion. I've had the pleasure of being on the multi-tiered systems of support guiding coalition. I've also been a part of the expulsion task force, and I'm now working with the strategic planning team to address disproportionality. Thank you for your time. I'm going to turn it over to Diana Rarick.
Good evening. I'm Diana Rarick, and I am the coordinator of social and emotional learning for the district. I had the privilege of presenting the last 2 years as we piloted 2 years ago with 8 schools, expanded to half the district last year, and now are district-wide. And in the fall, we had 81% of our 3rd through 12th graders, and in the spring, having 78.4% of that student population. One of the things that we're really excited about and happy to report is that the majority of our schools completed action plans indicating what they're going to be doing to respond to and improve upon areas that would be focuses for growth and to celebrate and continue to grow those areas where we're strong. In reflection on the action plans, we are one of the few districts, the only one that I know of in the metro area that's doing that, where every building has to report back to the district what their action plan is from that data. So other districts are collecting data but not necessarily doing that. Even right here in West, I'm excited to report that this school raised emotional regulation from the fall to the spring by 6% with some targeted interventions. So Specific shout out to Mark back there, because I know he leads a lot of that work here along with Principal Monica Garcia. Another one of our elementaries noticed a low sense of belonging reported as favorable. So the report, again, is we get the reports by favorability, and those students that were identified as ELL in that school were of particular concern. So the mental health provider and the PBIS coach collaborated on a newcomers group and saw increases in connection, positive behavior, regulated affect, and engagement. So that's a huge success that we hope to expand on and share with other people, with other schools and students next year. Since our first year, we have also granted that these are different specific students because we've had different numbers of schools participating, but we've risen from 41% favorability. And it was, for those that haven't seen this data before, want folks to understand that there's 5 responses students can give, and the two highest responses or most favorable are the ones that we classify as favorable. So there's typically 20 to 35% that answer in that middle range. So we see that as a strong celebration going up that much in a couple of years. And it's certainly an area we want to continue to grow because we want that to be as high as possible. Supportive relationships is even higher with our elementary students giving a 92% favorability and 85% of our secondary students giving that. And that reflects parent, peer, and faculty and staff relationships. This year we engaged in conversations with parents at the Voices of Color meeting, as well as student meetings in buildings and with the Superintendent's Council to get a more sense of the experience and not just the data that we get from the survey, but some dialogue around what we can do to that and how to be responding at a district level. Additionally, teachers are now getting access directly for all of their students, so they can do grade level, classroom level planning and reflection. And lastly, when we're looking forward, really excited to continue staff training, specifically more to the teachers. These first couple years has been really building data literacy at the leadership level, and now we want to focus on that at the classroom and grade level. Continue to have dialogue with students and provide resources for them and collaboration with them, as well as potentially create some kind of PSA to help them see how that's circling back to them. And then with collaboration between the strategic planning team, thinking about those 3 targeted priority areas you've heard about and the MTSS framework, so that when we do walkthroughs in schools, these action plans are alive and they're not just a document that leadership looks at, right when they get the data and then 1 or 2 other times a year, but it's really something they're reflecting on continuously with their executive directors. So thank you so much. I'll pass it back to Michelle Weinrob for questions.
So it's kind of disingenuous for me to say I'm happy to take your questions because I am, but then I'm going to pass it off to them when you need good answers.
Thank you. Director Allen, do you have any questions?
So you don't have to pass it off because I'm just going to give you compliments to your whole team.
Nice.
Thank you for your dedication to all of our kids. And we can't be excellent if kids don't feel well or if kids don't feel seen or heard. And you address those needs every day. As always, and I'll never stop saying it, thank you to our district and for you, Michelle, for pushing the continued importance of a school nurse in every school. Personal, my mom was a school nurse, and I saw how important that was. So thank you for that. And I'm also so grateful, having this position, being able to talk to lots of people that I wouldn't otherwise, and having some really important conversations about mental health and student health, and being able to point really parents that don't know where to start to just check out the Cherry Creek website on mental health. Have you looked into Hazel Health? And just having those resources so readily available for parents that are so overwhelmed by the process is amazing. So thank you, and I appreciate the time that you took to answer my questions in the study session, which is when we do the deep dive, and that's why I so appreciate coming here prepared and your ability to educate the public the way you've done us. So thank you, whole team.
Thank you. Director Egan?
Yes, thank you. Hi. And I'm proud of you and your team for all the work that you've done and it's important. It's very challenging work, I know, and occasionally incredibly heartbreaking work. So I really appreciate all of you and welcome Andrew and Nicole to your first board meeting. I know it won't be your last, so thank you for being here to all of you. I am glad that you mentioned, Michelle, the MTSS. And for those of you who don't know what that stands for, it's called Multi-Tiered Systems of Support. So I don't know if that was mine. I think it was in there. But anyway, just clarifying that. Nice to see disproportionality addressed in that, so across all levels. So thank you for that. And then I think, you know, just again, I've mentioned before the sense of belonging. I know that we want to continue our work on that, and that those numbers are up, and that they are up also in comparison to the nationwide average. But I know that we're continuing to lean into that work and spend time on that. So I just wanted to end with something that I had mentioned, that I went to that conference, and it was so interesting. This is a new way for me to look at this that I hadn't thought about before. Mental health is not the same as mental illness, which was so interesting, and it's so obvious. But that was an interesting seminar that I went to kind of hear it addressed that way as well. Because oftentimes I do think we kind of equate the two. So I thought that was an important thing to take away. But thank you, and thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you. I do have a couple questions. So when you talked about the school that experienced a 6% increase in self-regulation, what were some of the things that the school did?
I throw it back to everybody.
I don't always know every intervention or strategy that schools are using, but I am aware that one of them was just direct instruction around emotional regulation.
Okay.
And so recognizing emotions, and then how do you regulate them if you want to shut them?
You just kind of pointed that out to students on how to, just techniques they can do to
Yeah, I
self-regulate.
believe they used some of the playbooks from the Panorama playbook platform. I don't know if there were others. Oh, you guys wanted to.
Just a couple of additions to one of the psychologists that had participated in some of that is now on our leadership team as well. So we have the privilege of getting to hear some of that firsthand. I know that mental health and counseling, it's my understanding, worked with teachers to modify some of the playbook strategies as well. So to customize a little bit of some of the offerings based on what the data looked like here. And I also understand there were some listening tours, a number of student focus groups, so finding ways to integrate student voice to say, what would that look like here? That seemed to have a pretty pronounced impact on some of that data. That was my understanding too, just to add.
Perfect. Thank you. Then I have just kind of a generic question. I've asked this before about just, I was at a session, this is several years back, where they talked about the issue of homeless youth in our McKinney-Vento families, and they just basically talked about if you are on a sofa or in someone's basement for a long term, that you are considered homeless. And I know we don't always consider, you know, if we have a relative living with us, or if there's, you know, a teen, you know, a friend that always is over at your home, that those people can be considered homeless as well. Can you talk about that, that big leap that we had in the past few years in identifying, it's like almost 4 times the rate that we have normally?
Yeah, I mean, the McKinney-Vento standards are a set federal standard, and so our entire population goes through a recertification. So our current McKinney-Vento population goes through a recertification process by our own team every year at the very end of the school year into the start of the summer, so like May, June is that time. And so that's when we confirm or reconfirm their living situations, whether they've left. I mean, we usually know when they leave our district or leave the state because of the team who's working with them to provide services. But in terms of those who have been at a status quo through the school year, they have to go through a recertification process, and then along the way, throughout the course of the year, the team tends to unfortunately but fortunately identify new qualified students and families to add to the roles. And it really is just a process of what has, the world over the last 4 years with the pandemic and other factors, the rent and all the factors socioeconomic that you could bring into it. Yeah.
Are the primary drivers for that in our community, like rent or employment, or does it vary?
I think it's always multi-factored. I
Okay.
mean, we almost never have a family who has just one reason.
Okay. Well, again, thank you for all you do. As a mom in the district, I'm a witness for the need for school nurses and have helped my family out immensely. And I also wherever I go, I'm a proponent of mental health care. Mental health care is health care, and so I get annual visits. Everyone in my house gets annual visits, and we are not ashamed of that because if your leg is broken, you'll fix that. If your brain or your feelings are broken, you should fix those too. So just again, thank you for the work that you do and keeping all of our kiddos in our community healthy and safe.
We are very grateful for your ongoing support, so thank you back.
Thank you. Are there any additional questions? Okay. It is at this point in our meeting that we take time for members of the audience who have completed the online public comment form prior to 12 noon today to address the Board of Education. In order for everyone to be heard, please limit your comments to a maximum of 2 minutes. A buzzer will sound at the end of the 2 minutes, and the microphone and audio will automatically be muted. Each speaker may speak only once during public comment. Speaking time may not be shared between speakers. This is your opportunity to make comments to the Board of Education in accordance with board policy. It is not a question and answer session. Please confine your comments to matters that are germane to the business of the district. Further, please recognize that students attend most of our meetings. Any speaker whose statements or behavior are unrelated to the business of the district, appear threatening or unsafe, or are inappropriate for K-12 students may be interrupted or warned and their opportunity for comment terminated. Audience members who speak are asked to do so in a respectful manner, and the audience is encouraged to listen respectfully. Any speaker or audience member who disrupts the good order of the board meeting, including the speaking time of others, may be asked to leave. We are very interested in your feedback carefully. On behalf of the board, I want to thank you in advance for your comments and for taking time to come to tonight's meeting. Mr. Koenig, do we have any speakers signed up for this evening?
We do not, President Garland.
Thank you. I'd like to call for a motion. To amend the consent agenda, yes. I'd like to call for a motion. I'd like to call for a motion for the amended consent agenda approval for motions, the motion to approve, oh, wait a minute. Let me start all over. Sorry. I'd like to call for a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended. And do I need to read the removed items?
These are the removed items.
Yes.
I would just
25.4.
identify the specific resolutions that remain that are being approved so that the record is clear.
Okay, all right. All right, thank you. So I'd like to call for a motion to approve the resolutions 25.4.1-25.410, resolutions 25.412 through 25.417, and resolution 25.419.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Directors Allen,
Aye.
Egan,
Aye.
Garland,
Aye. Motion carries. Now we're just, okay. Thank you. Our next business meeting is Monday, May 12th, 2025 at 7 p.m. located at Laredo Middle School, 5000 South Laredo Street in Aurora, Colorado. I'd like to call for a motion to adjourn the April 14th, 2025 meeting.
Move to adjourn?
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Directors Allen,
Aye.
Egan,
Aye.
Garland.
Aye. Motion carries. Our meeting is adjourned.